We did it! FloatNative is officially on the Apple App Store. No more TestFlight required, but I didn't stop there, and I may have ported the entire app to Android and Android TV. Real quick, if you're new here, hey, I'm Coulter, and on this channel we cover modding and hacking consoles to weird PC builds to occasionally coding up some pretty cool stuff like this. So if that sounds like you, be sure to subscribe below so you can catch the future uploads. So today is a bit of a massive bundled progress update on the FloatNative project. If you missed the last video, I built a native iOS client app for Floatplane, initially just because I wanted that modern liquid glass aesthetic in a Floatplane app and thought I'd try my hand at some native iOS development. And if you watched that original video, which I'll link in the description, that snowballed into adding features to that app like picture-in-picture and background play, hosting my own additional backend that adds playlists to Floatplane, and eventually porting that native iOS app to a full-on Apple TV app. So check out the video if you missed it. But since that video, a lot has happened. And when we left off in the last video, the app was stuck in TestFlight Purgatory because Apple was like, hey, if we can't take a 30% cut of all these transactions you have going on with these Floatplane subscriptions, then we can't let you in the App Store. And I was like, bruh, I don't own Floatplane. I can't give you that cut. Some people said maybe I could make a donate button and they could have some percentage of that, which might have worked. But after a bit of research, I crafted my email back to the Apple reviewer team and I uttered the magic words, Reader app, which I believe is the exact same thing that Netflix did to keep Apple from taking 30% of people's Netflix subscriptions. And you're essentially telling Apple, hey, people pay for this subscription elsewhere. None of the transactions actually happening in this app. They're just reading what they already paid for somewhere else, so you don't get any of that pot. Evidently, Apple read that email, was like, cool. Approved. I was like, oh my gosh, FloatNative is actually in the App Store now. That's huge. So that solved major pain point number one from when we left off in the original video. But probably the other biggest pain point that was in the original video was the authentication system. As you may be aware, the way I had to make it work, because the original V2 authentication endpoints were shut down mid-project back then, I had to do this kind of janky workaround where you grab your authentication token from your logged in browser and then funnel that through my little QR code system that would then go up and authenticate you and send you up and in. And it was like really not user-friendly. Although I knew it was secure, not everyone was comfortable with it, which is super fair. But shortly after the video went up, I managed to get in touch with someone from the actual Floatplane team, and they actually helped set me up with the official Floatplane OAuth flow. If you don't know what OAuth is, think of when you go to log into an app and it says sign in with Google, sign in with Apple. In this case, it's sign in with Floatplane. And so when you click sign in with Floatplane in the app now, you just punch in your Floatplane username and password, which is being sent directly to the actual Floatplane servers, and then the app gets back what it needs to actually log in. So the app isn't the one handling your login information. That's all done through the proper Floatplane channels now, making the app feel way more legit and premium feeling. And even more slick feeling is on the TV version. When you scan the QR code of the Apple TV version, you just punch in your Floatplane credentials on your phone in the official Floatplane auth flow thing, and then you're all logged in on the TV. And that same cleaner login flow applies to both the phone and the TV, which is super nice. So big shout out to unnamed member of the Floatplane team. Really appreciate your help on that. On the invisible side of the improvements made, the companion API, the bonus API backend I spun up to handle playlists and the enhanced LTT search, has grown up a little bit. Initially, it was a Node.js app that I was self-hosting, and then I changed it over to a Cloudflare worker because I thought, hey, serverless is cool, and you get like 100,000 requests for free on Cloudflare, so we'll make this a totally free to host backend, and it'll be easier to monitor logs and make sure it's got 100% uptime and all that good stuff. But then I realized that going serverless means you get cold starts. And so if you've used the app in the last couple of months and you've noticed that when you go to retrieve your playlists or save to a playlist and it takes a couple of seconds, usually that's because there's not a lot of active all the time users of this app. And so you might be the first one to have hit the companion app within the last 5 minutes. And so the backend worker has to spin itself up for a couple of seconds to complete your request, which I got pretty tired of those cold starts. And so it's not fully live at the time of this filming, but I'm planning to move that back to a self-hosted app, but I'm gonna rebuild it in Go, which if you don't know, Go is a really fast growing backend language written by Google, which is super performant. And once I move the backend back over to there, interactions with your playlist should be liquid fast. And to brush up on my Go, I actually leverage boot.dev for that, but more on them in a second. And as a little cherry on top of non-Android related updates to FloatNative, I also whipped up a FloatNative Chrome extension so that you can access and save to and pull from your playlists from the actual floatplane.com interface. So if you're interested in that, that's on the Chrome web store as well. So let me know how it goes and hit me up in the Discord if you have any issues with that, because I'm not sure how many people are using it aside from me, but I think it's pretty cool. But now to the really exciting stuff. So FloatNative has received a couple of shoutouts, even on Wanshow itself, which is super cool. One of you even spent your merge message on asking Luke what he thought of it. And evidently Luke watched the last video, so that's super awesome and a huge honor. So thank you so much, guys, for watching that. And so far, LTT's sentiments on the project seem like, hey, it's cool. But I think one of the key reasons why Luke and Linus haven't tried it for themselves, and a reason that has been backed up by most everyone in the comments and in the Floatplane chat that I've seen, is that we're missing the Android version. And I was like, I had a lot of fun playing with Swift and native iOS development for the first time. And although I've developed native Android apps before, that was back in the old school Java ice cream sandwich days. And I haven't touched a lick of Kotlin or any of the new ways of building Android apps. But darn it, that sounded like a fun use of my spare time. So yet again, no React Native or Flutter here. I went fully native with this build, and this time I got it approved on the App Store before the video goes live. So if you go to coulterpeterson.com/floatplane, as of right now, you can actually download the Android version of FloatNative to your Android phone or Android TV, tablet, or even your Android XR glasses, because that support gets baked in automatically now. So if you're one of the 5 people that has an Android XR headset or an Apple Vision Pro, because apparently the Apple version of the app also supports the Vision Pro, and I did see that one guy submit a merge message asking about support for that on the Floatplane app, so I guess you're covered now, bro. But it's on the Play Store. Cool, Coulter, but what does the Android port actually include? Thankfully, it includes all the good stuff that we're able to add to the iOS native port with picture-in-picture and background play and the native feel. I was very persistently careful to make sure that we used Material 3 Expressive throughout the porting process, and the custom playlists and the ability to add and create, delete playlists, marking a video as watched, the LTT search feature if you're actually using that. Not sure if anyone is, but it's there. But the Android version actually gets some new features as well, notably live stream support, because I thought it was working when I released the first video and it was not. But it's a little tricky to work on it because Wanshow only goes live once a week, and that's the only live stream I have access to because I'm only subscribed to LTT on Floatplane. And as we know, Wanshow is famously at inconsistent times, so I'm not always near a laptop when it goes live. But thanks to Wanshow being much earlier lately and falling in my Eastern time zone working hours, as well as my guy BW8686, who is the dev responsible for the Floaty third-party Floatplane client, which is a similar project but built out entirely in Flutter, which means that it supports platforms like Windows and Linux on top of Android and iPhone. So if that's your thing, check out his app, it's pretty cool too. But his work in implementing live support helped me figure out how to add live support, so thank you very much for that, my guy. And so the phone and TV versions both have live support, and yes, I do plan to backport that to the iOS version as well, but at this current time, the Android version is ahead. A nice gift to the many Android bros, I'm sure, in the audience, and don't worry, I'm one of them as well. But one of the even bigger features that I'm really proud of for the Android app is that I actually paid the fee to Google so that I was allowed to turn on Chromecast for the Android app version. And so now when you go to cast a video from your phone to your Android TV that's also running FloatNative, it should actually just hand off that video ID to the FloatNative TV app and pick up playing from there, but from within the app, meaning that your phone is not having to act as the host, and the quality of your stream is not dependent on the power of your phone or the quality of your in-house Wi-Fi. And as Luke has stated himself on Wanshow, the phone to TV app handoff tends to be the more reliable and better feeling Chromecast experience. So hopefully by the time you're watching this, that feature works well, and let me know in the comments if it does not. Or hit me up in the new channel Discord, which I basically started to discuss the FloatNative app dev process and talk bug reports and all that good stuff. Now, I don't know if it's Luke approved, but what's certainly Coulter approved is this shirt from Coulter.store. But speaking of learning entirely new languages to build cool stuff, big shout out to boot.dev for sponsoring today's video. If you're a developer looking to level up your skills, or if you're just starting your development journey, you know just how boring courses and tutorials can get. But thankfully, boot.dev gamifies the entire process, so you feel like you're just playing a game and earning XP as you learn. I've been using it to learn Go recently, which, as I mentioned, helped me to create the new performant backend for the FloatNative companion API. But boot.dev also has courses in Python and TypeScript and SQL, Docker, Kubernetes, you know, the kind of stuff that helps you land those higher paying backend dev salaries. They even have courses covering super hardcore projects, like there's one led by the Primogen where you actually build a complete HTTP 1.1 server from scratch using just Go. And if you ever get stuck as you're learning, you have a handy AI companion named Boots who will help you figure out the problem you're working on without giving away the answers to actually learn what you're doing. And on top of all that, they just launched Training Grounds, which is a super cool feature where it will automatically generate an infinite number of challenges based on your current progress and what you're learning so that you can make really sure those skills are sharp for your technical interviews or whatever else you're using those skills for. Check out the link in the description or scan the QR code right here to get started, and be sure to use the promo code Coulter to get 25% off your first payment. And thanks again boot.dev for sponsoring this video. Okay, so I think it's time we address a very common comment I got on the last video, which was, Coulter, why are you so anti-React Native? Why didn't you just build this in React Native or Flutter or something cross-platform? Don't you know that you can just use Expo to get liquid glass in iOS 26? And I'll admit, I did not know you could use Expo to get liquid glass in a React Native project in iOS 26. However, I don't think I laid out my case very well in the first video, because the philosophy for mobile app development I've decided to go on is that it depends on the app you're building. In the past, I've thought one cross-platform framework to rule them all. At first it was Xamarin, and then it was PhoneGap, which is now Cordova, which is now Ionic, which is now Capacitor, and there's React Native, and then there's Flutter, and then there's PHP Native, for goodness sake. But it really depends on the app you're making. If the app in question is, say, a communication app, where you're just going to receive data from a server and send data back, like a social media app or something, then yeah, React Native is probably a fantastic choice, because really it's just a data input-output system. You're not doing much outside of that particular app's canvas, so you may as well save yourself the extra headache of maintaining two separate code bases. But from my experience, once you're making an app that would greatly benefit from direct access to the native implementation of certain features, like picture-in-picture and background play, or just the built-in media player, especially fancier things like accessing the lower levels of Bluetooth or something, then it typically ends up being less work to use the built-in native SDKs for each platform, maintaining them separately, than trying to find all the little edge cases and bridge functionalities and packages that expose this and that or mimic this and that in one code base, which ends up just being really blobby, instead of two really clean code bases, which if I were to forget about these projects and pick them up 5 years later, those projects would probably still compile and give me a clean upgrade path. Whereas I've had React Native apps that I've completely abandoned because they were just trapped on version 0.26 or something with an endless amount of prompts and errors, and it was just like, you know what, it's not even worth upgrading this app. I'm just gonna let it die on version 0.26. And maybe that's my biggest gripe with cross-platform frameworks, is like dependency hell. Whereas with FloatNative, I'm barely doing any imports. You can see it in the code for yourself. Plus there's zero bloat from a cross-platform framework. Like the iOS version of FloatNative is 5 megabytes. You're welcome. Like if you're still rocking a 32 gigabyte iPhone, then I am not your problem app today. But I'm just one random developer on the internet, and you are absolutely free to have a different opinion, and I welcome it in the comments or the Discord or whatever. But thankfully, despite my accidental hot take about native development in the first video, it looks like there are over 1,000 of you using the FloatNative iOS version, which is honestly wild. Like, I'm trying to picture 1,000 people in a room to realize how many people are actually using something I built in my free time, and that's super cool. And I have a feeling that the majority of you are actually Android users, so I'm really curious to see how high the user count goes now that the Android version is live. And I really appreciate how many kind comments and encouragements there were in the comments in the first video and in the Discord and in my emails. People seem to really have appreciated this project, and I really appreciate what a kind community we're starting to grow here on this channel. And honestly, it means a lot to me. So thank you so much, guys. And yeah, you know, if you haven't subscribed, then feel free to hit that down below. It would help a lot. And thanks again to boot.dev for sponsoring this video, and definitely check them out at the link in the description if you're anywhere at all on your dev journey. I think you'll enjoy it. Again, you can find all the download links for both versions of the app at coulterpeterson.com/floatnative. And let me know in the comments which version you'll be using. If you're an Apple user, drop an Apple emoji down there. And if you're gonna try out the new Android version, then drop a little robot emoji down there. And if you like this video but missed the first one, then definitely check that one out next. And if you want to support the channel and help vote on what projects I take on next, then check out the Patreon in the description, as well as the Discord, where you can chat with me and the growing community we're starting to build here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.